work, one whole day to play. Come on, everybody, wear your roller skates today. It's Saturday, 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 it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, yeah.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Career Exploration Saturday. I'm your host, Ebony Tyler. I have real conversations with real people about real jobs. So this week, my guest is Danielle Davis. Danielle is a fellow Midwood Hornet and a Hofstra alumni. Danielle shares her journey from Brooklyn to Baltimore. Danielle is a principal, and she shares some gems about becoming an educator and a school leader. All right, let's jump right in. Welcome, Danielle. Welcome to Career Exploration Saturday. I am so happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Ebony. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So, I like to start off the conversations. Tell us who you were at 16, but, we know each other from Huddy.
Way back.
Junior high school. They don't even call it that no more, right? It's middle school.
Middle school. Yes.
And then we both were at Midwood. So tell us, who were you at Midwood High School? 16? Did you know what you wanted to be? Did you know where you wanted to go in life?
So I guess at 16, I thought I knew it all. Back then, just hanging out, probably not doing everything that I should have been doing, to be honest. And so I don't think I knew then that I wanted to be an educator, but I know I wanted to go to college. I wanted to have a college experience. I think I wanted to be a doctor at the time. And I was like, I'll figure it out when I get there. So I enjoyed that then, but life has changed a whole lot since 16 years old.
And then did you go straight from, Midwood High School in Brooklyn to college? Did you take some time off? How'd you get there?
So I actually went straight. So right out of high school, I went to hofstra University, and I had a wonderful 4.5-year experience there, stayed on the dorm, and just enjoyed life, friends, just a different experience being on your own, being independent, and really trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. And so I majored in computer information systems. And so I said, I don't think I'll do the doctor thing. I think I'll get into the tech world. I love technology at the time. And that's when the internet just started. We were able to send little text messages. So that was big. AOL was big at the time. And so I went to school and graduated with a business degree in computer information systems. However, the job market was not that great when I left. I ended up working in a law firm, typing documents for lawyers because it paid more than entry-level computer information systems positions. So I took what I can get, and I stayed there until about 9/11. And I was like, I need to do something different.
So before we go a little deeper into your career, let's go back a little bit to Hofstra.
Sure.
Hofstra's on Long Island, right? Not that far from New York City. You could drive there, you could take the train there, and then you got a chance to live on campus. I went to Hofstra for grad school, but tell us a little bit about what the campus experience is at Hofstra, and it is a PWI. So what was that like? And how do you find your people in those spaces?
Absolutely. So when I got there, it was just new altogether. And I actually got there late, and I was put in a dorm with all of the athletes. And so it was like one of the last spots. And I had a lot of learning to do. Because the truth of the matter is I had never been in a world like this before, where it was a really diverse community, where I kept myself in a not so diverse group when I was in high school, to be honest. And so it was just a lot of learning, but becoming independent, living on campus, and being close to home had its benefits, because I could hop on the Long Island Railroad and get home and it wasn't a problem. Mm-hmm. So that was a great experience. And then not being too far and attending parties and hanging out and meeting new friends. But I got to meet people from everywhere. That was the huge perk about it. There were people that came from all different states in this country just to come to hofstra for that experience, all different backgrounds. So there was a lot of networking that happened there. I met people in so many different places and different states that I'm still friends with today, that lives way far from Brooklyn. So that was a great experience. And even having, when I finally got a car, I was able to drive home and come back. So it wasn't too far. But the campus experience is like no other. And that I would not trade for the world. And so if students have an opportunity to live on campus, and even if they don't, just having friends that are on campus so that you can have that kind of experience and hanging out at the dorms and maybe attending parties and things like that, studying there, being at the study hall, that's just something that you just can't trade. You really can't trade that experience. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, and then Hofstra also, they they got that money, so
yeah, the campus was beautiful.
It's a beautiful campus with a lot of resources.
A lot of resources. And I think I didn't realize that because I didn't look into a whole lot of different schools when I first started deciding what school to go to. And so I was very fortunate to be there where they had tons of resources, colleges within the university having their own little campuses inside of the campus, having its own store. And it was just, the resources is what's key. And so every school should have that opportunity to have the funding. So when you have schools that have all these sponsors and all the funding in there, there's so many more things that they can provide for their students. And so every school should have that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said that after you graduated, you were working in the city, and then 9/11 happened.
Yeah, I was working in the city, 9/11 happened, and I decided I wanted to do something different. And so I had a friend that also went to Hofstra that lived in Maryland. And I wanted to visit, like, well, let me come out there and visit. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my life. And she had her own apartment. And I was blown away by the rent in Maryland compared to New York. So I knew that I could live on my own if I moved to Maryland. So I figured out how to get an apartment. I got one of those little apartment books, and I started to do my research. What kind of jobs are out there? Where could I live that would be close to close to the city, so that, where there would be more job opportunities. And so I just started really doing my research. And within months, I moved June 2002. I picked up and left and found an apartment in Maryland. I moved to PG County, actually, when I first got here. Yes, I lived in PG, and I moved with nothing. I went and found a job working in a school, in an after-school program, making minimum wage, just so that I could figure out what I want to do. And right then, when I started working with children, I said, this is it. This is what I want to do. And, just because you have a degree doesn't mean that the doors are going to open for you right away. Like you're going to make all this money right away. It doesn't mean that. But if you have the passion and commitment to figure out what you want to do, that's key. And so I took that job part-time, minimum wage, but I learned a lot. And I started networking, and I started asking the principal questions, and leaders at the school that was there. I started asking them, well, how'd you get here? And so someone told me to try out for a residency. So I actually applied to Prince George's County teaching residency and Baltimore City teaching residency. And I actually got into both.
I always admire people who pick up from where they lived and go somewhere else and start a life without their family, without their friends. I totally admire that. I was always scared to leave New York and to go somewhere else and start all over,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's a great story. So where did you decide to do your residency? PG? I love them girls in PG, went to school in Baltimore, Maryland. So where did you decide?
So I decided to take the Baltimore City teaching residency position. I I weighed both options. They were both great programs. But Baltimore City had the demographics that I really wanted to serve. And so this was an opportunity for me to be of service to Black and Brown children. And that's what I needed. Because I felt like when I came up in elementary and high school, we didn't really have as many, Black educators standing in front of us, educating us. And so I wanted to be that one. And I'm so glad that I did. Baltimore City Teaching Residency, that was a great program. I was able to go to school again, and that's how I got my master's, by taking classes. So what happens is if you have your bachelor's degree, you get in through to a residency because you don't have the credits to be a certified teacher. So the residency helps you to go to school so you can get those reading credits so you can become a certified teacher. So in the meantime, you're a conditional teacher. But it helped because I was able to get my master's degree at the same time. So that was just a wonderful experience. And I started teaching second grade because somebody gave me an opportunity. And here I am still.
Now, what's it like teaching second grade?
Oh, so it's, people always say like, oh, you have the babies. And so second graders are not the babies. They're a wonderful group of intelligent, bright, spontaneous kids. Like they really, really are. It was really a wonderful experience being with second grade. I also had an open space experience. So I was in a building that you can kind of hear the teachers next door to you. And so that's how I learned what to say, what to do. Oh, did we teach that next? Let me do that. So that was just great. I enjoyed teaching second graders. I did that for 7 years. And even when I go into second grade rooms now, it's always a piece of my heart with them. Children, they're like sponges. Whatever you provide, they soak it up. So it's important that we always, give them our best.
And in second grade, you're teaching reading, math, phonics,
everything,
history, science. You know it all.
Yes, you do. You teach everything. We weren't departmentalized when I came up where, teachers are only teaching math or science. And a lot of schools do that now. But I had to cover everything from the moment they came into school to the moment they left, including recess, including the down times and up times. And so it was a lot. And sometimes we did co-teaching. After a few years, I would have other residents that were going through the program come to stay in my class so that I can co-teach with them and teach them. So once you're a resident, they lean on some of those educators to now help those that are coming up. So that gave me an opportunity to also coach new teachers that were coming into the school. So that was wonderful. But yes, you teach everything.
So did the experience of working with coaching other educators, motivate you to want to become a school leader? Right.
So, I learned through that how much I love working with adults. And so I loved working with children, but I had a thing about working with adults. And so even on my team, we had large teams, sometimes 5 teachers on a team, 6 teachers on a team. I ended up becoming a team leader at the school as an educator. And so you serve on different committees, but you also help to lead a team, facilitate meetings, support data analysis and curriculum building, things like that. And so I started to really enjoy the dynamic of supporting other educators. And I thought this is an avenue that I want to go in. I also came under great leadership. So my principal that was there was in an aspiring principals program. So I started to inquire about that. Like, how did you become a school leader? Because I feel like whatever avenue you want to go down, try to network with people that are already in that position. And so that's how you start to understand, is this something that I want to do based on some of their experiences? So I tried to lean on my assistant principal at the time, who was a wonderful person, and my principal to see if this is what I want to do. And I started to become vocal about it. Like, I think I think I want to become a school leader. So she started to give me other opportunities to lead from my seat. And so I think when you decide whatever area you want to go in, you really got to start doing your own personal research and start to find people that is like that, so that you can lean on them for some insight.
Yeah, I mean, networking, mentorship. I feel like sometimes
Right.
people ask us questions. Why are they all in my business? Well, perhaps they see something in you that they want to become, and if we don't share our stories, how can we cultivate more leaders and more people to come into our occupations and stuff?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, assistant principal for 7 years, and now you was a whole principal, Principal Davis.
Yes. You know, if you believe it, you can become it. And so even though it didn't happen like that overnight, you know, when I became a resident principal, there was so much that I had to learn, and I had to really become humble. And not only do you learn from other leaders, but you can also learn from other educators. So even as a resident principal and even as an assistant principal, I had educators that were now working under me that had more years experience than I had. Yeah. And I started to learn to lean toward some of the experienced teachers, because they can teach you a whole lot about leadership as well, because they have been under other leaders. And so I learned to do that. I learned to become more reflective in the decision making, because it's like, oh, you become a leader, you're the boss. And so there's this boss mentality, but that might not get you anywhere. You have to learn how to build relationships. You have to learn how to communicate with others. You have to learn how to understand when you're wrong, admit it, make adjustments, and then keep going. That's important. And so in order you can be a leader and have the title, but if you want anyone to follow you, you really have to figure out that human side of this position. And so there was a lot to learn. And I decided to be an assistant principal for a few years and take a lot of that in. And I actually went to different schools, and I got to be an assistant principal under other leaders and learn even more. So, you know, your door opens when it's time. And when I thought I would, you know, be a principal, it was still a couple of years before I got into the position. And so, that happens by design. And so you have to really believe in that. And I now know, looking back, wow, it's a good thing I went to those other schools, because look at what I learned in each spot that I was in, that I was able to take with me now. So that's the key.
And you've been a principal for 4 years, and in the third year, a global pandemic. Who would have thought, right? Who would have thought?
You know, my goodness.
Principals. I think principals are doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
At keeping parents sane, you know, kids stable.
Yes.
Because this is it's a lot to deal with. So how are you? I don't even want to say adjusting, because I don't know that we are adjusted to this.
Right.
How is
wow. It? So this past year, because it's almost been a year now, in March, we went out to virtual learning March 2020. And I don't even think it was real then, because, you know, over here it was like, oh, we're going to be out for 2 weeks. Let's just make packets for kids, you know, and we'll be fine in 2 weeks. And then, you know, we just worked with it. And then in 2 weeks, it was like, we're going to be out another 2 weeks. And it really started to hit that this might be our lives for a little while. And so we really had to, you know, the leadership key is, okay, what do we have to do now? And start digging in. So there was a lot of online learning, how to host these online virtual sessions, how to use PowerPoint with these sessions and all these other platforms that I really had no idea about, because that's not what we use in our day-to-day. Right. And so we have become now experts. I'm telling you, educators are doing the thing, okay? These teachers are so amazing with the tools that they use online to create a learning environment for children, you know, in this situation that we're in. So it's had its ups and downs. But you know, we made the best of it. I try to communicate with my families as much as I can, and you know, keep them up to date with everything, and that's the best. And I just hope for the best and let science lead. That's it. That's all I can say. But
Yeah,
you know, it's been an experience, but it's an experience that I would never want to go back to, because we learned so much from it. We really have.
Mm-hmm. You know,
Yeah.
the other day I had to do something, and I was like, how do I sign this document?
Right.
And my 8th grader just came, and he was like, oh, you need an extension. You need this because this is what I use for school.
Yes.
You know, all of these different, like the Jamboard, where he's on Jamboard, and
Absolutely.
and teachers can see how he's working. I think,
right.
I feel like technology was already here.
Yes.
Education is meeting it.
Yes.
And now we've gotta stay the course with this, because
it's huge.
Yeah.
And what our children, I think the biggest thing that I learned is that you really can't put anything past kids. Just because they're 8 doesn't mean they can't do this or that. Just because they're 12 doesn't mean they can't. These children, like how you explained about your own child, they soak it all in. My 8-year-old knows how to get online. He knows how to go to the different tabs, log into his session. He now realizes time, because he has to log in and log out. And he's like, oh, I have to go back on in 8 minutes. They have come accustomed to this. And so we really have to take that in as a key to us. What things did we think about before that they were not able to accomplish because we thought they couldn't accomplish it? When they really can. And so we really have to give, you know, our children the best opportunity, because this technology isn't going anywhere at all.
Yeah. And I remember seeing you on Facebook taking devices to your students and to your families.
Yeah, it's important. And you know, so you know, children across the nation now have laptops where many of them didn't before. And you know, there's schools that has those resources, right? But not all do. And so I think we're also seeing that kind of divide that has happened with poorer neighborhoods that didn't have the type of internet service that they need, and children that didn't have devices that they needed. And so this pandemic has shed a huge light on that whole situation, but it's also gotten that divide a little bit smaller. And so I'm thankful for that, you know, our children have the opportunity to have the same thing that many other districts had all along. And that's huge. So I'm going to keep pushing for mine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, any advice you would give to a young person who says that I want to be a teacher, and they think that, you know, just being a teacher is standing up in front of the classroom, because you guys put in a lot of hours outside of the classroom.
Right. So there is a lot of standing up, that's for sure. But I would say, if you would like to get into education, don't even worry if you didn't get a degree in education. That's the first thing I would say. There are districts across the nation that are looking for people to come and educate their children. Your experience, whatever that may be, can be something that you can bring to the table. So look into what kind of residencies there are for educators if you don't have a degree. And every state probably has some type of residency program looking for educators to be a career changer. And even if you were into education, start applying to all the districts that are in your community. Start researching what schools are in this district. What are the demographics there? What curriculum are they using? Really just start doing your research. Check the district website. what are their core values and do they align to yours? Make sure that you are serving a community that meets your soul. That's what's really important, because I don't think you'll put your best effort in if it's not a part of your vision and your goals. Network with others. If you know teachers, other leaders, network with them. What is it that they love about the position? And because that can open up opportunities for you. And just have patience, because you might think that, you apply for a job, you didn't get it, but that job wasn't for you. The one that's for you is out there. So be very patient and humble at the same time. So I think it's huge. And yes, get into teaching. We need educators out there. It's such a needed area, and so many people might think like, oh, well, I don't have a degree to teach. Yes, but you have experience and you have something that you can provide to others. And so that's huge. I've worked with other educators that are career changers. They've been managers, data analysis, officers, people from the military come and become educators. So I'm a huge advocate for people to become educators.
Okay, and last question. I know you do a lot of community service. Do you have projects that you want to share with us that we can support?
So I love serving my community. It's huge for me. And so I look for different organizations that serve women in need. I try to support women's shelters. I recently, along with a few of friends of mine, we were raising funds for a women's shelter so we can buy toiletries and needed items for homeless women. And these are things that we may take for granted because we can go in the store and purchase items that we need, but there are women out there that don't have that. So raising awareness for that. I've also done a fundraiser recently to purchase diapers for young women that are part of an organization out here in Baltimore City, Young Lives in Baltimore City. They support young women, and that's huge for me. And so there's a lot of young women that have children and need support. So I did a fundraiser like, oh, they need diapers? I'll do a fundraiser and send information out just to raise, a couple $100 to purchase diapers for those in need. So it's really big to me to continue not only to be a servant in the school system, but also to serve the community around me. And so I'll just continue doing that, putting the word out so others can do the same.
Principal Davis, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and continue doing what you're doing. I think it is huge, and you're providing this platform so others can learn. And so kudos to you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you so much, Danielle. So some takeaways are, if you want to be an educator, you don't have to have a degree in education. You bring your life experience to the work, and you should consider a teaching residency. Do your research and talk to other educators. Two, there's that word again. Networking. Use your voice to say what you want and lean on people for insight. And three, true leaders are reflective. They learn from others' experiences. They admit when they are wrong. They make adjustments, and they are effective communicators, and they understand the human side of being a leader. Thank you for that, Danielle. So Danielle, thank you so much. Welcome to the Liberated Success family. All right. So listen, exciting news. Tomorrow we start working with our first cohort of liberated problem solvers. And this would not be possible without your donations, your love, your support, and your kind words. All of that has made this possible. And I just want to do impactful work, and I appreciate everyone who has been rocking with Liberated Success. Thank you. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. And if you find our work impactful, informative, and important, show us some love with a donation. Donation links are in my bio on IG, Twitter, and YouTube. It's the first comment on Facebook. And if you're listening to the podcast, you can show us some love with a donation through listener support. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, to the podcast. Follow us on IG, Facebook, and Twitter. We're everywhere. All right. Wear your mask, wash your hands, physically distance. I look forward to being fully vaccinated in 2 weeks. because I want to get back to working with schools and being with young people, and I miss my friends. All right. And you know, all Black Lives Matter. All right. See you next week. Bye.
Crazy work, one whole day to play. Come on, everybody.